This is going to be exciting, just what we wanted.
It's Arlington, Texas, and a triple crown looms.
So how about Levi Kitchen wins Detroit? Cooper Webb is first win 2025. To the end, unbelievable.
Plus 250 West back in action. Yeah, welcome to SMX Insider. We are the Jasons, Jason Weigandt, Jason Thomas. Big news for us. It's the 100th episode of SMX Insider into the third racing season. We've been covering all the news every week. Championship headed into Arlington, Texas this weekend. What a way to celebrate the 100th episode, JT. There's a tie atop the Monster Energy Supercross standings. Doesn't get much better than that.
Now, we're getting all of the racing we could ever ask for, and we have a long way to go to catch the PTI boys over at ESPN, but I think our sport is delivering on a level that no one else is, so there's that.
We'll be caking on a lot more makeup if we're here 25 years deep like those boys have. As far as the tie is concerned, the math says tied. There will be two riders, Chase Sexton and Cooper Webb, with red plates on their 450s this weekend. But I feel like that's just the math. The eye test says, look out, Cooper Webb is trying to take control here.
Yeah, this is a really pivotal time of the series because when you look at the momentum that Cooper Webb has and the rounds that are upcoming that all lean into what Cooper Webb does really well, and the stats, which we'll talk about later, speak to Cooper Webb continuing this momentum. I think it's really important for Chase Sexton to answer to try to upend some of that momentum and the point swing going the other direction.
That's right, because it might just be down to those two, although Ken Roczen is still lurking. And we all know the news of the previous couple of weeks, losing Jett Lawrence and then Eli Tomac and Hunter Lawrence, Jorge Prado, et cetera, et cetera. But we do have an update with Jett Lawrence. We'll give you the big interview here at Detroit. And here's the latest on Jett. And now we're joined by Jett Lawrence, unfortunately not racing here at Ford Field because he is out injured. So now we get a little day in the life. Just tell us what the last week and a half has been with the knee surgery and how the recovery is going.
A lot of sitting around at home, trying to hook up machines to my knee and get it to bend, to heal, like red light and muscle stem, stuff like that to try and keep the muscles activated and firing. So just a whole lot of that, a whole lot of pain. And just been 1 week has already felt like 1 month. So that's not ideal, but, no, it's just been the basic stuff of trying to make sure I keep that knee moving a bit and trying to get it set up to heal as best it can.
I was going to ask specifically on the knee with the crutches, what is the status of the meniscus? Sometimes they take that out and you're actually walking real quick. Did you keep it in? I know the recovery sometimes longer. Is that how that worked out?
So thankfully enough, I just had a slight tear on my meniscus. So Dr. Kramer, he just stitched it up and it's just going to heal over the stitches so you won't see them. And yeah, that's why I have to do 3 weeks on crutches. Normally it's two weeks on crutches, but the doctor said another extra week on just to make sure that meniscus is okay.
So let me just talk to you now as, unfortunately, just a Supercross fan. Are you going to be able to watch the races? I know, and I've asked you this before, a lot of racers can't watch when they're out. What's your take? Are you able to watch right now?
Well, I was watching to watch my brother, but now he's not racing. I'll only probably watch chunks on the 250 Chance, my teammate and a good friend. Probably just watch that, really, 250, and probably shut the TV off after that main event.
Can you believe what has transpired? So obviously you did not expect yourself to be in this situation. Then we see Eli Tomac and Hunter go out just a week later. It's pretty wild how racing can go. I'm sure that was shocking news for you, just like anybody else.
I know. I was telling my dad you should have really forced the golf clubs onto us, really. But no, it's yeah, part of the sport. Yeah, like you said, it's rough, you know, and it was a bummer to see Eli go out. Obviously, he was kind of saying it was his last year, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not. Hopefully, he comes back again next year. And yeah, this is a shame. Obviously, it's even more of a bummer with my brother too. You know, it was I finally got to have that time where I took the pain away from him and he wasn't getting injured for once and I was getting injured and I was like, okay, I'm fine with this. I said I wanted that before and so he could go and race and then he got injured. I'm like over here kicking myself like, damn it. Like we thought we almost did it. But no, this, yeah, it's a gnarly sport.
Last thing for you, you don't know exactly when you're going to be back, but this is a 31-round season. We saw you get back last year just in time for SMX playoffs and World Championship. Your plan is to be back at some point for sure in 2025?
Yes, no, for sure. I'm going to be back at some point. I'd love to be back for outdoors and be fully ready for that. But as of right now, we're just going to play it by ear. I'll definitely be back for SMX. If I'm not, then something really went bad. No, we're shooting maybe for outdoors, hopefully. Fingers crossed, or even maybe a few rounds in. But we're going to just play this knee by ear and try and get it healed as fast as we can and get it back as strong as we can to where it's not going to be a chink in the armor, It's going to be back fully strong,
Did I hear you might be back for some races? I'm hearing maybe rumors of Indy. You might be on hand.
Yes, no. So I don't want to fully disappear while I'm injured. I think will be fun and exciting still to go to a few, and for obviously the Lawrence fan zone for us and us actually going there now. We're not racing, so we think we're talking with our team and that stuff. That would be good to still go to them, because then the fans will get even more time with us because we're not racing. On race day, we're always so focused in on what we're doing that we're the fans that who get the tickets are still, they're getting most of us, but still not 100% of us. Unlike a Friday, where now, gosh, we'll fly in Friday and do Friday and Saturday with the VIP thing, and they'll get 100% of us and just kind of enjoy the races from a different standpoint and kind of get that fun factor again. We've been doing a lot of races and it feels like it's a job, and we feel like we've been more of a job task going every weekend, but where at least this time we'll hopefully bring the fun into it and see it from a different standpoint and just enjoy the races as a fan.
We'll give you a different one. Come on up in the booth. Join us when you come to the races too.
I'd love to. I'm gonna do some talking lessons and make sure I get my talking nice and prim for you guys, because you guys keep it high level up there, so I can't be coming in and being below, especially with you, Ricky and James, and I gotta be good. I gotta be good.
Yeah, we do. We set a really high standard here. I hope some of the tips that we just got, maybe that'll help you out here.
Exactly. Please send me you guys tips, please. I need them.
Okay. Good luck with the recovery. Good to hear you're going to come to some races and eventually be back on the tracks.
It's interesting to hear from Jett, and I think we have to give him the benefit of the doubt in this situation, because he surprised everyone last September with how capable he was, being way ahead of schedule. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to say he will be at the opening round of Pro Motocross at Fox Raceway. The question for me is, in what capacity? Is he going to be a guy that can go battle for the win, or is he just going to manage and get some points, whether that be 8th or 12th or 17th? I don't know, but I'm willing to go on record, and I look at his youth, I look at all of the smart people around him and the technology on his side, and then the time frame, and I'm just going to say it. He's going to be on the line racing the opener in Fox Raceway. And the most important part of that, I think, is what it does for the points. Because remember, this is an accumulation as we work towards the playoff round starting in Concord, North Carolina. And if he starts 4th in the playoff seeding, or if he starts 7th, that changes the math for what he has to do in those playoff rounds to try to get that three-peat for the SMX World Championship. So it may not seem that important how many points he gets at Fox Raceway, if any, but I think when we get to those playoff rounds, it's going to be incredibly important.
Yeah, it will be interesting. We'll be watching two things at once. Riders returning from injury, and we'll have more on that later, but also what's happening right now. And there's a lot to discuss. 250 West will make its return this weekend in Arlington. It's a Triple Crown format. And again, the tie at the top of the 450 class standings. So let's get to it. 30-second board. Let us address the hottest topic in the sport. It is now tied between Cooper Webb and Chase Sexton. I like this matchup because it's kind of two different ways of going about it. Chase Sexton has always been fast. He's definitely going fast right now. But boy, Cooper Webb, that excellence of execution is on full display. So you're really looking at a fire and ice, two different ways to get it done scenario between these two.
Yeah, I think Sexton has the raw speed advantage. If you're just one lap, who's going to win this thing? I think a lot of people would lean into Sexton, but Cooper Webb has all of the other aspects of racing. I think the racecraft, the mental edge, that grit and determination, all those things are what makes Cooper Webb so lethal, and he's starting to figure out how to apply those things as the field is narrowing a bit. So it doesn't feel like it's tied. If there was a sentiment gauge, it would feel like Cooper Webb is pretty far ahead, but that's what this racing is. It's week to week. Points are going to shift, and if anybody thinks that Chase Sexton is done winning races in 2025, you're fooling yourself. I just think it's kind of a roller coaster of emotion right now between the two.
Now let's talk big moves in 250 East points. That was a disaster of a first round for a lot of the riders that want to win this title. It was much better. Levi Kitchen getting a win. He vaults 9 positions in points, and RJ Hampshire desperately needed podium points after 18th at the opener. He got it. So I think, to me, it's a little oversold how short these championships are. It's actually a 10-round series, and 3 of those races are East-West showdowns. So even Hampshire, and to a lesser degree Kitchen, they don't need to be worried. I think there's plenty of time to make up ground.
Yeah, and we hypothesized that last week in Tampa, we shouldn't read too much into it. There was too much uncertainty, too much chaos. It had that Anaheim 1 type feel where riders, they just weren't doing the thing. Like, I applaud Levi Kitchen for staying that on the podium. I was too nervous. I could not ride like myself. RJ Hampshire gets stuck on a tough block for a couple laps. Like, there was just way too much noise around the situation. Now you can compare that to Max Anstey, he's just been as stoic as anybody could ask for through 2 rounds. But everybody else, let's just take a pause. Let's see what unfolds. And to your point, when you throw in the amount of racing these guys have to do and those all-important showdown events where the points can really get sideways, these guys have all the opportunity. Nothing is lost. Yes, Max Anstey is in the driver's seat right now, but that stuff can shift on a dime. And we always have to remember how chaotic these 250 series can get.
Well, there was proof in Detroit, the absolutely brutal luck for Anstey, who had that race won, and then the red flag restart with 7 seconds to go. And I just thought he was mad on the podium over that, understandably. But he was also mad at his team owner, Bobby Regan, who has spent 15 years motivating his riders more like a football coach than what we're used to normally seeing in this sport. Got under Anstey's skin a little bit, but then Max said maybe it helped. So I don't know where we're going with the Bobby-Max relationship. I guess it's good.
Well, this is not a new dynamic. You say 15 years. I raced against Bobby Reagan's racers in 2003. The likes of Pete Johnson, Isaiah Johnson. He was yelling at them, having them do these crazy training theories. Wall sits is something he was big on. I don't even know if most people know what a wall sit is, but it is a big part of what Bobby Regan thinks is good for motocrossers. So this is 22 years of screaming and yelling at his riders to get them fired up. I think this was the first engagement of it with Max Anstey, but that's what this team is about. They want to win at all costs. They don't care about hard feelings or anybody being upset. They want to win. And if it takes being mad at the team owner to get there, so be it.
Yes, 15 years they've been trying to win races, but I did not realize he was yelling at the guys even when they were just a privateer team trying to make mains. Maybe next week we'll do the show with wall sits. We'll just set up the background and see if we can get through the entire 30-second board. Bobby would be proud. Another rider to mention, look, I know Ken Roczen didn't win in Detroit, and he gets beat late in the race again by Cooper Webb. We'll bring on our statistician, Clinton Fowler, with more of that history later. But I still feel that even without the win, we are seeing more strength, more endurance, more fitness from Roczen this year. Maybe not than ever, but certainly more than we've seen in a lot of other seasons for him.
Okay, the question is this going to change? Because right now, you're 100% right. He is on form. Okay, he lost the race in the end, but he looked great. It's not like he fell apart at the end. Webb just had a little bit more, and he's been in the fight outside of an incident with a lapped rider in Tampa. He's been in the fight almost every single weekend. But I'll go back to the trend that Clinton Fowler uncovered, that in the second half of the season, he's 2 positions worse on average than he is in the first half. And we're simply not there yet to know. And until we get there, we get late in the season, we're in Pittsburgh and we're in Denver, and he's still this guy, the guy that's leading most of the race and has that sprinting and all the things that we see right now. Okay, it's on. And I don't think being 16 points down or whatever the number is anything to really worry about. I only have one question. It's the one I already asked. Is it going to look like this in late April the same guy in mid-February? Is it going to be the same guy in late April? If you tell me yes, everything is in front of him.
It's neat to have a wild card like Roxon where we don't know in the mix, because if you told anyone, hey, Tomac and Jett are hurt, and now it's Sexton and Webb toward the top, I don't think anyone would have been surprised. But this Roxon thing is really hard to predict going forward. And if you're an international fan, it's cool to have him in the mix again. So here's a reminder. Subscribe to the SMX Video Pass if you live outside the United States. That's where you can watch all the races live. It includes now the French language broadcast for Tom VL fans out there, and the Spanish language broadcast. This year, you can also listen to the Spanish broadcast in the United States with Telemundo Deportes on Facebook. We love the international flair, and I'm going to transition into the injury list here. It seems like it's been disproportionate to the international riders, with Hunter and Jett now out, and Jorge Prado as well. But JT, I'm thinking this. You believe that Jett can be back for round 1 of Pro Motocross. I asked Dan Fahey, Monster Kawasaki. They're pretty sure that Prado can be riding by April. Racing in May shouldn't be a problem. I think Hunter Lawrence is on that timeline. Eli Tomac will be back. That is wild to think of the round 1 Pro Motocross scenario. So order up your SMX Video Pass subscription now.
Yeah, I think we're going to get all of those riders back. I believe the opener for Pro Motocross, the riders that are injured now will all be back. The one thing we have to watch out for is, do we start to lose more riders from here? That's my biggest concern, because we're in this weird part of the season where riders are going to exit the series and we're not really getting anybody back yet. So if we continue to lose more, it's going to swing that way until it starts to come back to us on the health side. So it's a normal part of racing. There's a lot of risk in this sport. Riders injure themselves. There's a lot of crashes. Cameron McAdoo. We see it every single weekend. Let's just hope these guys can hold it together through the end of this Supercross leg of the SMX World Championship.
Let's get some more information on a rider who is literally trying to hang on to his shot in Supercross. Time for the SMX medical update from the McGinley Clinic, which is also the backer of the McGinley Privateer Support Program in the pits at Monster Energy AMA Supercross. Dr. Joe McGinley, you know Nate Thrasher. I know you've worked with him before. Broke his finger in a midweek incident, still raced, and then made it worse. So what are you hearing on his situation, gutting out a finish in Detroit?
Yeah, that was impressive. He had a midweek incident on the practice track, ended up breaking one of the bones in his middle finger. And yeah, he went out there and raced and ended up 5th place. That's impressive. I can't imagine the discomfort and pain he's probably going through getting through that main event. And then he posted on social media, during that race with no crashes or anything else, that bone sort of moved a bit and his finger got locked in a more flexed position. So again, that couldn't have been comfortable, but he gutted it out and got the championship points and moved up in the point standing. So very impressive ride.
So I saw him actually in the Detroit airport on Sunday morning, and he had a pretty extensive wrap over at least 3 of his fingers, and it looked like it was immobilized for the moment anyway. So what does that look like between now and Daytona as far as trying to get him back out there and stay points relevant?
Yeah, he posted on social media that he's having surgery, probably already had surgery by this point, and he plans to be back by Daytona. Again, a lot of that's going to depend on pain control, inflammation management after that type of surgery. Physiologically, if he gets hardware in there and stabilizes that bone, he should be able to race. It's just going to come down to inflammation and pain control by the time we get to Daytona, and how much time he's going to have on that bike before that race.
So something like that, I've had a similar injury, and they put an external pin through my finger, which I don't think I could have raced in that scenario. So what does a corrective surgery for him look like to, that's a really quick turnaround to only miss 1 weekend of West Coast racing, be back for Daytona?
Yeah, given that information that he's planning to come back by Daytona, it's likely not going to be an external fixator or pin. They're probably going to put a plate on that bone and stabilize it. So it'll be, similar to a clavicle fracture where you get a plate on and then they close up the skin. Likely that's the direction they're going with that to repair. That's the only way I could feasibly see him getting back out there by Daytona. And that would stabilize the fracture. Again, if they get that closed up and there's no infections or anything like that, it's just going to come down to inflammation and pain control and whether he can hold on to the bike.
Well, we have seen Nate Thrasher ride through pain quite a bit, not even just through Detroit. So he's capable. See how he does at Daytona. Thanks for the time, Dr. Joe.
Thank you.
Now back to 32nd board. Another thing to watch this weekend in Arlington, MAR. That's Military Appreciation Race. You'll see custom bike graphics, custom gear on the riders. But more than just the look, I think, JT, you do feel the overall spirit, even opening ceremonies. The athletes really like this event.
Yeah, I think it gives a chance for everybody to pay tribute. I know for Cooper Webb, it's really important to pay homage to his grandfather who fought in World War II, which we're going to lean into that a little bit. So I think bigger picture stuff can be very much a part of Monster Energy Supercross and SMX, and this is a way to do that. So I think everybody wins. This is a really cool thing. It's a way to be expressive. We also get to pay tribute to all the service members.
Also this weekend in Arlington, 250 West resumes. Here's a refresher course. Only 3 points between the leader, JuJu Beaumer. 2 points back is Jordan Smith. 3 points between Haiden Deegan. So only 3 points between the top three. And I really feel like that last race at Glendale was the perfect cliffhanger. Probably 4 riders left there saying, yeah, I got this now.
Yeah, this has been awesome. And I don't know that anybody expected any of these things. We didn't expect JuJu Beaumer to be this great. We didn't expect Haiden Deegan to not really step up the way I think he would tell you he hasn't. And then for Jordan Smith and the second-year Triumph team, they're right in a title fight. So everywhere you look, we have points battles going down, and we've kind of forgotten about this 250 West for a second. They're going to be right back in our face here in Arlington, and all of those storylines are going to come back to fruition.
Yeah, Cole Davies as well. Almost won that last Triple Crown at Glendale. He's getting better by the week. So with 3 weekends off, how good can he be now? Another topic at Detroit is, as you know, Honda doesn't have any 450 factory riders since Hunter and Jett Lawrence are out. I talked to the team manager, Lars Lindstrom. He says they do not have to fill that spot, but that doesn't mean they won't. Here's what he said on Honda's own social media.
Hey guys, Lars here with Honda HRC Progressive. Unfortunately, Hunter and Jett are not going to be able to finish the Supercross season for us this year. We've had a lot of riders reaching out about possibly riding one of their bikes for the remainder of the season. Right now, we're not really sure what we're going to do. We don't really have to put anybody on a 450 for the end of the season, but we would like to if it works.
All right, JT, give us some candidates for the very coveted spot. Honda HRC Progressive, about as good as it gets.
Well, they basically have their pick of anybody that either rides a Honda or doesn't have some sort of very punitive penalty for exiting their current contract, because let's be real, it's Honda HRC. But to me, a couple of guys jump off the page. I think Dean Wilson, because he isn't really locked in anything and he's been racing in Europe and he could make that transition very easily. I think Joey Savacci, being on a team, that quad block Honda team that is very tied in with Honda globally, that's an easy transition to make. It's a little unfortunate for Joe Shimoda because he's not 100%. They could just move him up for a few races because he's been around enough. He has the experience to make that move. But to me, I think it's between those three. Well, you could say those two of Joey and Dino. You could also throw Dylan Ferrandis' name in there, but I think that's a little bit too difficult to take him away from the Phoenix Honda crew, that he's their only 450 guy. If I had to pick, though, I'll say Dean Wilson makes the most sense.
Yeah, and there's so many other options. The mind boggles. Vince Freeze on a Honda just won the AMA Arena Cross Championship. That would not be very popular with a lot of people like you, JT, and the fans. But he rides well, so we'll see where this goes. Lars said, really, this is not, they're not out there expecting anyone to win or podium. Those riders aren't available. So we'll see what makes the most sense for them. Maybe it'll be Dean coming back. We're headed to Arlington this weekend. Touched on it earlier in 32nd board, how good Cooper Webb has been there. It doesn't make any sense to me. I know, for example, that Eli Tomac has a great record at Daytona, but Daytona is a very unique racetrack. So, of course, there's a chance that one rider will be an outlier at an outlier type event. Why is Cooper Webb so good? It's a football stadium dome. It's not that different from other tracks. Why is this happening?
I'll try to make some sense of it for you. Think about where Arlington lies in the schedule. It's one of the first East rounds, always has been. The series moves to the East, well, I would say in the last 15 years. It's one of the first ones. So that gives Cooper some spark. Like, I'm out of California, now it's go time. I think he responds well to that. Second, the whoops here, since we've moved, to AT&T Stadium, the dirt's much softer. So the whoops break down. That allows him to find a rhythm through them. They're not the big, peaky, jagged edges that he has to find a way to blitz through. And then third, these corners really allow him to use that inside. We talk about him shortening the racetrack. The ruts on the top start getting beat up. They start slowing down. That allows him to go to the very inside and get really efficient with his racing. And I would challenge you, go back and watch those 2021 residency races. He actually absolutely made his living with those insides. He took it to Roxon as the track deteriorated. That's where he got him almost every single time throughout those 3 races. I think we're going to see that same dynamic again. There's been rain in the Texas area. That's going to bring in a little bit softer racetrack. And he knows that. He's going to really lean into that and make the most of it.
Oh, that's some good analysis, JT. The dirt, the time of the year, trending toward Cooper Webb. Let's see what other things we need to watch. We'll bring on 2 experts so you can put your money in the right places.
Alrighty, James, let's talk some bets here. We're halfway through the season, or close to halfway through the season. We're getting there. It's an amazing battle at the top of the points. We got Webb and Sexton tied up. But man, we've had 11 different winners in 12 races. In the Premier class, we've got 5 different winners in 6 races. Chase Sexton's the only one that goes twice. Who do you see? Do you think we get a 6th one? We haven't seen a 6th winner or 6 winners in a season since 2015, James.
Yeah, I for sure think this year we'll definitely get a 6th winner. I mean, the competition, the level at the top, obviously with Chase and Cooper, those guys are just on par as far as championship. But then you look at Ken Roxon. I mean, Ken's different this year. I know he hasn't got a win in there, but just his fight, he's doing stuff that I haven't really seen Ken do. You know, normally you're kind of just waiting for, and even though Cooper was in a perfect spot, you knew as a racer, like Cooper was probably going to win that race, just how he looked. But Ken has a different fight to him. His bike looks pretty good. So I would say he definitely gets a win in there. I would even go to the point where I say we get 7 of them this year. 7 different winners. You got some guys, Jason Anderson's another guy. So I would keep looking for different winners as these rounds goes on.
I think we got to talk about Cooper Webb and Chase Sexton. They're the clear favorites heading into Arlington. They're tied at the top of the standings. I think they might have done Webb a little bit dirty in the odds here. They've got him in as a 162, and Chase, they're given a slight advantage with a 144 going in. Maybe that changes. Folks, you got to go to your NXTbets or your local sportsbook and verify the latest lines here. But, man, James, to put Sexton ahead heading into a place where Webb has got 6 wins in the last 8 visits, that seems like he's, a little questionable. What do you think?
I mean, in years past, I would say, come on, you're doing your boy dirty. And I would think Cooper would use that as motivation. But, I think what Cooper used to do in the past, to use a lot of these things as motivation, it was because of lack of something else. He didn't have the speed, maybe it was a start. So he kind of had to use these type of things to get into, make himself feel like, all right, there's a chance. And by the way, he still does it, but Cooper's better this year. I mean, his start's been better. He has that, burst of speed in the beginning of races where he's able to get out. Unlike years past, I think, again, he had to kind of use that stuff. So although Vegas and, the bets got, Chase Sexton as the favorite, they have eyeballs. And if you watch Chase Sexton outside of hitting the gate, he's been pretty good. He rode really good in that main event. I would say he was the fastest one. Coming up through that pack. So the way Chase is riding this year, and especially last weekend after hitting the gate, I could still see him the favorite and still coming out winning this weekend, no problem.
Yeah, James, and obviously he's had the speed all year long. And the last time we had one of these Triple Crown events, it was Chase Sexton in Glendale. So maybe he goes and repeats. It's great to catch up with you today, James.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Good luck.
Okay, another note for racing this weekend at Arlington. This is the return of the Triple Crown format. Certainly dynamic racing. The last time we saw it at Glendale. You and I love this. The riders are always a little hesitant with 3 starts with all the superstars on the gate. But it's certainly fun to watch and offers the potential for some shakeups.
It is. And I know for the riders, it's more risk, it's more racing. And for the teams, it's more expensive because they need that second backup bike to be there. But for everybody else, I think this is a superior product. So when we get these, I'm all for it. I think it's just great. There's so much action packed into a 3-hour show, it's really hard to beat this setup. And I think you have to look at who really excels in these. Cooper Webb was the second most successful behind Eli Tomac, so he's going to be loving everything about Arlington, including the Triple Crown. So I'll give you another name. I think that Malcolm Stewart has a chance to bounce back here with this Arlington setup. You think about Triple Crown, it's a shorter race. If he can get those whoops really dialed in and have an edge there and only have to blitz through those for a shorter amount of time, that's going to be a nice setup for him. And I think he could be back into that podium fight here in Arlington. But if you told me we were going Triple Crown every race, I would be excited. I might have an argument with the riders, but I really think we're lucky to have another one here in Arlington.
Last thing for Arlington, check out the track map here, JT. What do you see?
Well, I think this is one of the favorite rounds for riders, and you contrast that with when we were in Irving at the old Cowboy Stadium with some of the hardest, worst dirt of the series versus this, where lots of traction. Yes, it breaks down some, but I think the riders enjoy it. And I look at that start a little bit longer. That's going to open up the outside gates. So you think about a rider like Justin Cooper, who really likes to use that power and push deep into the first corner to get the whole shot. That's going to allow him to be back into that conversation again. Another one of the big things here, I always go back to Weege's Birmingham moment with the, oh no, with Cooper Webb almost hitting the Monster Energy girl. It's the same setup there. It's going the opposite direction, but that bend along the first corner is very similar to that type of setup. And then the other note, I think the whoops here will be important because riders like Malcolm Stewart, Ken Roczen, they want to ride all the way around the top, carry momentum, and then blitz down the far right side, which is the outside of the corner exit. A guy like Cooper Webb's going to want to use the inside, shorten up the racetrack, but he's going to try to jump through, which he doesn't need all of that speed. So it's the yin and yang. And I think late in the race, late in the main event, that line is going to come in for Cooper Webb. So watch that. Maybe early he blitzes, but late in the race, he's going to switch to that. And is it enough to offset the Sextons and the Roxons' momentum on that right side?
SMX Facts, we bring our staff statistician, Clinton Fowler, onto the show. Clinton, I remember going to Detroit last year, and we had this record level of close point standings in the 450 class. This year we have a tie leaving there, but you have an even cooler stat showing some parity this year.
Yeah, I mean, last year was great and amazing, but we've topped it again this year. Round 6, we've had 12 points-paying main events. We've got 11 different winners. That's the most in history. Last year through this, we had 10. So we've beaten it. The only one to repeat as a winner here, JT, is Chase Sexton. He's gotten 2 wins this year. Nobody else has repeated it as a winner. And to put this in perspective, JT, we average 6 different winners through 6 rounds. So for whatever reason, the level of competition seems to have increased. We have incredibly close racing. It's really just been impressive to watch.
Yeah, I think there are a few factors to it. First and foremost, there wasn't a clear-cut guy where he's going to come in and dominate and get on a run. There was a lot of parity, and we've used that word a lot, but it's never been more true. A lot of these guys were on the same pace, and it was really about starts and positioning and who could kind of step up in the moment. And then we've lost some of those guys, so there's been other opportunities. We saw Malcolm Stewart get his first win, and the chance of someone else getting a good start and putting in that excellent ride has risen. We saw Ken Roczen kind of come into the fray, and there's been a lot of that where these guys, maybe they're an outlier, not a real favorite to win a race. I think there's a lot of opportunities for those guys, so it wouldn't surprise me for that number to continue to climb because we haven't seen the likes of Jason Anderson or some of these other guys really make that move quite yet.
Heading into Arlington, though, this weekend, there is a stat that says one rider should be an overwhelming favorite, and that's Cooper Webb with his record in the building, and that also includes an unbelievable win over Ken Roczen in that building years ago. Then we saw a rematch, that type of battle in Detroit. So give us some numbers with Webb at Arlington and then Webb versus Roczen. Sorry, Ken Roczen fans, you're probably not going to like this info.
Yeah, Weege, it's unfortunate for Roczen. I mean, as you're watching that main event in Detroit and you see Webb coming up, you can't not think he's going to get him. They've had 7 different races where they've been 1-2 in this scenario, and Webb has taken 6 of those 7. Webb has gotten the best of him. In 5 of those 6, he ultimately won by less than a second. And to your point, Weege, Arlington, he won by 2 100ths or just about 3 100ths of a second. just an absolute incredible victory by Webb. I mean, he has won the last 6 of 8 races here, JT. It's tough to imagine that somebody's going to beat him in this venue.
It is, and I think the underrated part of this is the venue switch, because if this were at Cowboy Stadium in Irving, I'm willing to go on record and say this would not be the case. It would almost be the other side. It would look more like his Glendale stat line than it would like Arlington, because this is a completely different setup, different dirt, different type of racetrack, and that is something that he can really latch onto and find good results in. So sometimes the devil's in the details, and I think the venue switch and all of the changes that brought on are really a big part of this story.
Thanks for the stats, Clinton. We got something to really think about this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, Weech.
Well, that's about it for the 100th episode of SMX Insider. We thank all you fans that watch every week. We do our best to give you the broadest scope of information. There's plenty of shows out there that drill super deep down on one gnarly, aggressive topic. We try to stay above board here and give you your primer, so when you go into the weekend, nothing will surprise you, including the fact that we have some breaking news right now. We just hit up Honda team manager Lars Lindstrom for an update on Joe Shimoda. We found out that Joe's healing up, doesn't need surgery on the fingers, and JT, they think he might actually be able to ride this week before Arlington, which is the first time he's been able to do that before a race since the injury.
Well, we're living up to our SMX Insiders name here, bringing news, but this is good news across the board for Joe, because I really thought they were going to have to go in, pin it, some sort of invasive surgery, which was only going to make him worse for Arlington if he could race at all. The therapy route, it's going to allow him to continue doing the things he was going to do off the motorcycle, which is really important. And if he could ride once or twice this week, he's certainly going to be more comfortable. Now, I don't know if he can go out and win the race in Arlington, but his level of pain is going to be much lower and his grip strength will be much better than it was. So I think a podium type ride could be possible again for Joe Shimoda, where he's been in survival mode for the last few weeks ever since that injury.
So there it is, 250 West. We don't know what direction that's going. Triple Crown format. Cooper Webb and Chase Sexton tied. Lots to watch for this weekend. We'll see you in Texas.